Welcome to Map Crow, the RPG art show. My name is Kyle, and today we're building better beholders. That's right, for the spookiest month of the year, we are revisiting the Building Better Monster series with one new monster video every week. So if you don't want to miss a monster, subscribe to the channel. If you want to hear more about the process and see the concept sketches for this painting, check out my Patreon, where just $5 a month gets you access to the secret sketchbook. So right from the jump, we have an issue. There really is no such thing as a better beholder, because a beholder is an original monster for Dungeons and Dragons. There's no lore to reference that isn't the thing already. And that means even more than usual, this is just going to be my opinions on the kinds of monsters and games that I like to run. And I'm just having fun kind of rearranging the pieces to get a specific kind of impact for my table. Beholders, as they are presented by Dungeons and Dragons, are kind of innately silly. And I think that that's chiefly why they are such an enduring part of the game. But that's not the kind of game I enjoy running, so I'm gonna have to make some changes to make it match my preferences. And maybe I'm just being uncreative here, but I can see no way to make a spherical monster with one big eye and a big toothy grin and a bunch of tentacle eyes actually look intimidating or frightening. Similar to the Mind Flayers, I also feel that the beholders are kind of gesturing at this cosmic horror extraplanar threat that they're just kind of too goofy to deliver on. And furthermore, it is very difficult to have anything that sits in the Wizards of the Coast monster manual actually come across as frightening, because you are treated to paragraphs and paragraphs of texts explaining away all of the mysteries. All of the things that could instill fear in the reader are over-explained. So to get what I want out of this video and out of this design, I am going to have to change their appearance quite a bit, and then also not really explain what I think they are and where I think they come from, and just talk about what their effect is when you meet one. What do they do to you when you meet it? And this is just kind of a general tactic that I like to use when I'm running a game. I try not to use the name of the monster from the monster manual as I am narrating the game. I will talk about it as if I am describing this thing that has just been seen for the first time right then. So for this encounter, for instance, I would not say a beholder suddenly descends from a hole in the ceiling and starts blasting away with its various random eye rays. Instead, I might say something like, noiselessly, an egg the color of alabaster descends slowly with an anti-gravity effect from a hole in the ceiling. This thing is about the size of the couch that you're sitting on right now. Chittering forceps and mandibles and spider legs telescope and extend from a hole that's been smashed through the broad side of the egg. The long, chitinous, hairy legs probe the walls and floor as a dozen glowing, lidless eyes peek out from the shadowy darkness inside of the egg. Stoja. Suddenly, one of the eyeballs focuses on you, and as its iris contracts, you hear a long, low hum in your head, and suddenly, splitting out of your back, a whole double of you just kind of emerges from your spinal cord and writhes on the ground, except it has no skin. As it finds its footing and pulls itself up from the ground, this double screams incoherently and thrashes you with its naked fists. Does a 13 beat your AC? No? It futilely smashes its fists into your staff, leaving greasy, bloody stains upon it as you block its flimsy attacks. Grimsby, can I get a wisdom save, please? Yeah, that's not high enough. So as another one of these eyes focuses on you, it begins to glow brightly, and you get this horrible nosebleed, and the scent of your own blood has made you hungry. You have to eat something. Do you have any rations with you? Okay, so until you make this wisdom save on your turn, you will have to use your reaction to eat a ration on every turn or suffer disadvantage from the overwhelming hunger. Tamlin, You and only you hear this shrill piping noise like a flute being played at a high-pitched trill as one of these unblinking eyes just stares at this deep gash on your shoulder that you got from one of those vampire bats earlier in the cave. Can you make a Constitution save for me? Whew, that's a big number. Yeah, you take no damage, but this wound kind of gurgles and pops and shifts, sending a shiver down your spine and goosebumps across your arm. That is how I would try to run it. I mean, it's going to come through with a lot more, filler words and a lot more awkwardness in the language. And, my players are going to ask clarifying questions because this is so weird, it may not make sense to them. So it sounds really cool as I'm narrating it here, and I'm editing out all of the things that I misspeak, but that's still how I would try to run the encounter. The design work that I'm doing on this monster is essentially swapping out all of these fairly lackluster I-beam abilities and replacing them with abilities that reinforce what I believe to be the essential themes of cosmic horror. Now, cosmic horror to me is essentially just this kind of unanthropomorphizable creature treating you like an 18th century scientist would treat creatures and plants in nature. An 18th century lepidopterist does not care about the autonomy or well-being of the various moths that they are pinning to a frame. That kind of activity seems completely benign to the scientist, but, how does the moth feel about that situation? That is the point of view, that is the lens of cosmic horror, I believe, when it is at its most effective. And just as a general note, I think that we can just call it quits as game designers on elemental damage in tabletop RPGs. I think we've done all we can with fire damage and ice damage. I think there's a lot to be done by unpacking the metaphors associated with things like fire and ice and lightning from heaven that is going to increase the intrigue at your table. But credit where credit's due, the anti-magic cone that the beholder has is top-notch game design. Not only does it add an interesting level of decision-making for the players, they have to move out of the range of the cone if they want to use any kind of magic items or spells, but it's also an interesting tactical wrinkle for the GM as well. Where is it best to put that cone? Because that cone is also going to interfere with all of the I-beam abilities as well. So anything you want to smite with your cool lasers and everything needs to be not inside of the cone. And also, because it is a cone, it encourages the beholder to move as far away from the characters as possible to widen the area of effect. I think that's the nicest thing I have said about Dungeons and Dragons on this video series. And for what it's worth, if I didn't adore this game and running it and playing it, I wouldn't bother making these videos. So I do enjoy this, even though sometimes I come off as a bit critical. Most of the times it's just nitpicking a difference of aesthetic priorities. That's really what this is. Thank you so much for watching me fundamentally ruin a classic and iconic, well-beloved creature from Dungeons and Dragons. Next week we have another spooky monster. I have several ideas I'm really excited to get down on paper and bring to you, so please subscribe if you would like to see more. And I gotta say, I'm really curious about the comments on this one. Like, was this too far? Was this not beholder enough? I mean, I think especially like visually speaking, this is utterly not a beholder, but I would love to hear your thoughts on this. How much changing, how much remixing, how much rebuilding is too much? Let me know in the comments below. I will make a list of the materials I used and place it in the description, so check that if you want to learn more. And until next time, my friends, farewell.